Thank you so much, you two. I feel like at this moment I am like on the verge of needing to sneeze. So I might have to like mute myself very quickly if like something violent starts to happen. But until then, hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Rachel. If we haven't officially met, hello. My pronouns are she, her. You can call me Rach if you like. And just a quick introduction to myself. About 10 years ago, I started my first business and I was always organized and I thought I was a very traditionally productive person, but I was very unbalanced and it was easy to get stressed out and I was very overwhelmed and I never said no and I took on too much and I felt like I was keeping track of all of the things by myself and I was working so hard and I was so busy, but I was truly exhausted and my mindset was busy equals productive. And this is very much where I got stuck because even though I was constantly moving the needle I was constantly going and I was doing things, I wasn't moving the needle forward. And I was stuck working in my business on all of this admin stuff and I wasn't really able to breathe. And I learned very quickly that this was not sustainable and I was totally burnt out. Can anyone relate to this feeling? Drop a yes, a hands up, a something in the comments. Let me know if you can relate to this feeling. Yes, yes. So I pivoted and I made some major changes and I dove headfirst into self-development. I started asking for help. This was a huge one, and learning how to delegate and outsource to others. And learning, my biggest shift was creating tools and learning how to use these tools, anything I could get my hands on, that created a very powerful system and something that worked for me in a way that was different than how I'd been doing things up until that point. It was a much more structural, organized system that I didn't have before. And this is a part of my signature framework that has helped clients banish overwhelm, get more done, balance their time, all of that good stuff behind the scenes. And this is what we're going to start dipping our toes into today. So if you're here, you probably know how it feels to wake up in the morning and have too much to do. It's that overwhelming feeling that there are never enough hours in the day. You're always busy, and yet somehow you still aren't making progress towards your bigger goals. It truly sucks to feel like you are not in control of your time, to not have the time to take care of yourself because you're so busy taking care of others or taking care of your business or your clients. And it really sucks to feel like you have been so overwhelmed for so long that you don't even know where to begin digging yourself back out. And I hear you and I see you. And I want to pause here and take a deep breath with me, invite you to take a moment because I promise that there is a solution. So we're going to break today up into two different parts. So for phase one, I want to talk just about some productivity fundamentals. So step one, brain dumping. The feeling of having a ridiculous number of thoughts, ideas, lists, etc., rolling around in your noggin on repeat is overwhelming. It also prevents us from being able to think clearly, to brainstorm new ideas, to work efficiently. I'll start by asking everyone a question, a rhetorical question. You don't actually have to answer, but can you tell me everything that you have to do tomorrow? If you started immediately rattling off a to-do list from memory, I'm going to ask you another question. How much brain power do you think you're using trying to keep all of that in your head? And I use the word trying because you're not probably doing a very good job of it. Let me give you an example. Have you ever noticed your computer running slowly? You know, like that moment where it's like wheezing and like things are going really slow. And you found it was because you had a bunch of programs or windows or tabs open, like 20 more things, right? Storing every little thing in that beautiful noggin of yours can fog up your brain so much that you can't think clearly. So it forces your brain into this endless loop of don't forget this, remember this, as it attempts to run like all of these like dozens of small little programs all at the same time. And the worst part is what I talked about earlier, you're not actually remembering it all. So it's like trying to juggle a ton of balls all at once, except when you drop one, you don't even remember that you were juggling it or saw that it dropped, and you can't actually remember the thing that you forgot. And if you're lucky, you will wake up in a panic at 3 a.m. This has happened to me numerous times, right before you fall asleep because you remembered the important thing that you forgot to do earlier. The stress that this puts on your brain reduces your ability to focus on what's actually important. So you actually end up getting less done every single day. So the solution is to brain dump it all out. It's not the sexiest of terms, but it works. Brain dumping means that you simply write everything that you've been keeping in your head in one place. And we're not just talking about work stuff. We're talking about lists, chores, errands, projects, all of it. When you write it all down, you're not only guaranteeing that you won't forget anything, you're also freeing your mind to relax and think at a higher level. So you're closing all of those open tabs because your brain will no longer have to ping pong between don't forget this, remember this. And now it knows that you've written that down. It's somewhere safe. You're not going to forget. And it can relax. And you can now start to think about all these projects and ideas and things that you want to try in a more useful, creative way. So, step 2, making a plan. Before we jump into the actual planning part, there's something fundamental that we need to understand about how our brains work, because naturally our brains read things as 1, 2, 3, too many. So when we look at that giant brain dump list that we just made with no real game plan, it's not just overwhelming, it's honestly paralyzing. And it becomes so much easier to do nothing, like looking at TikTok or getting distracted by social media. No judgment, I do it. I call this squirrel syndrome, where you can just kind of like bounce around from task to task, but you're never actually really finishing everything. So how do you get around this? We start small. We need to remember that not everything can get done in one day. Our list is always going to be growing. Things tend to pop up that we need to handle. So if you give yourself 20 things to do today, and your job and your family and 3 other people need something from you, or a client has something and it pops up, chances are those 20 things aren't going to get checked off in one day. It's simply too much. And you're basically setting yourself up to feel unaccomplished. But by creating a short, manageable list for yourself, you can actually accomplish each day. You will start to make progress. So my go-to system is to try and limit your actual to-do list, what you're focusing on that day, to a maximum of 7 tasks. That's it. And I understand that that might feel like not enough when there's so many other things that you need, but we need to actually start small and make it attainable. If you finish your list, those things that are a priority, and you get them done and it's only 2 and you're like, cool, I can totally work a little bit longer, I've got more energy, go for it. Take a break, decide what's next, and focus on that next important thing. But by starting small and prioritizing that concise list, you can set yourself up to actually feel accomplished, rather than that disappointed feeling at the end of the day where you're like, I only did 4 things today out of that 20, versus if you had a list of 4 things and you did all 4 things, that's a really great feeling. Bonus points too, checking an item off your list. It's not only satisfying, it's dopamine. When you check something off, your brain goes, yay, I did it. And it gives you dopamine, and it actually creates momentum to keep going. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where like maybe you do something that actually wasn't on your to-do list. So then you write on your to-do list and immediately cross it off for the satisfaction of saying, hey, I did it. Same thing. You're giving yourself that little dopamine hit. So by scheduling less, you can end up doing a lot more, getting a lot more done, because you're able to stay focused. We'll talk a little bit more about this towards the end, because I have a free template for you if you're interested in it. Generally speaking, my favorite place to keep track of all the stuff is a project management tool. And there are a lot of tools out there that you can use: Asana, Notion, ClickUp. Personally, I'm Team ClickUp. Whatever you use, the whole point is to find something that works for you. If you are not sure what works, what you should be getting signed up for, where to start, send me a message, and I'm more than happy to help point you in the right direction. Okay, so we've brain dumped. We've made the list. We're jumping ahead. Now we actually need to understand when we should be working on all of those things. Because let's be honest, you wear a lot of hats, and the goal is to avoid burning the candle on both ends. So we need to understand when you're in your best state for tasks. So like head down, focused work, being creative and thinking higher level, and self-care, breaks, time off, all of that good stuff, also known as white space, giving yourself space on the calendar to be able to do those things. So when it comes to flow time, understand what works for you. Everyone is different. And it's not just working to work or because you have to do all these things. You need to work efficiently. So if your flow is off, you might not, one, be as like traditionally productive as you can be, but you also probably will just kind of feel like out of sync with it. You'll feel like, I just don't want to work on this stuff right now. Or you're forcing yourself to be creative at a time when you can't force creativity, right? Maybe you need to be working on some other tasks. So you might also experience getting more distracted, bouncing around, all of those not so fun feelings. So it's important to understand your ideal schedule so you can be your most efficient self. So sometimes we just know these things about ourselves. You can kind of intuit. Are you a morning person? Are you a night owl? Do you do better working late or into the night or early AM? An easy way to start understanding your ideal flow is to pay attention and see when you get lost working, when you get so hyper focused that you lose track of time. Hours go by, you realize that you really have to pee, your back is killing you, you haven't eaten, all of those feelings. That's when you are in your focused prime time. And it's important then to plan as much as you can around that energy. So for me, I'm personally a morning person. I do wake up early, but I like to start slower. So I take my time with less brain power tasks while I'm having my tea, getting started, that kind of thing. Personally, I also don't do meetings before 10 a.m. because I know my brain is going to be shit, before that time. Like I really need to make sure that I am 100% primed before I jump into anything, right? I usually also do like an afternoon project block, like around like 2 or 3 o'clock. I kind of get this like burst of energy sometimes and I can kind of keep working. And then usually around 7 p.m., my brain's pretty mushy. I'm done. And I know I'm not going to be very creative or be able to do a lot. So I go back to like head down tasks, like home chores. So folding laundry and prepping dinner and all those things that need to happen to make sure that I can still feel like I'm getting some things done that I wanted to do that day, but without forcing myself to do stuff that I really shouldn't be doing at that time. It's also really important to remember too that when you power through, like anytime if you tell yourself, I'm just going to power through, I'm not going to take a nap, I'm not going to take that walk, I'm just going to get this done and then I'll do the thing, chances are forcing yourself to continue working, you are going to end up taking twice, 3 times as long to get the thing done versus if you took that break, if you waited until tomorrow, if you just gave yourself some space to be able to then do that thing when you are actually focused and able to work on it. So just remind yourself that if you're like not feeling it and you need the break, take the break. Okay. So moving on to our phase 2, I want to talk about some tangible ways to schedule and plan your day for more time freedom, because I'm all about time freedom behind the scenes over here. So let's talk about actually prioritizing your day. Starting with a fun fact, the University of California, Irvine did a study years ago, and it said that the average person takes about 23 minutes to get back to that task at hand when they get distracted. So if you're anything like me, you will open your phone to respond to a message or to look something up, and the next thing you know, you're watching videos on TikTok of baby goats, and you don't understand how that happened. So if you get distracted 3 times a day, you're losing an hour of work every single day. And imagine what you could do with that extra hour, right? We always say that we never have enough time to do everything, but if we actually remove those distractions, there's actually a lot more time and space for us to get those things done. So the easiest way of avoiding the distractions is batching stuff together. Being more intentional with how you're going into things. So being able to focus just on projects during your block time. Schedule a few times a day when you will check all of your emails. This is usually the first thing that I do in the morning when I'm having my tea. I will open up my inbox. I will open up my client messages and ClickUp. I will open up my Instagram DMs, and I will try and go through literally all of them and respond to everything that I possibly can, because you get into this flow and you'll be able to get through everything a lot faster in this block versus breaking up your productivity every 10 minutes when you get distracted because your phone notifies you or you have your email inbox open and you see that you got a new email and you're bouncing around from thing to thing and you never really accomplish anything. If you find it hard to avoid distractions, mute, hide, throw your phone in the other room, whatever you need to do to help yourself out. I find that I'm always my most focused self when my phone is literally out of my sight. Like I will literally just put it behind me or outside of my office and you forget that it exists and you can easily then focus on what you need to do. Or you catch yourself looking for it and you realize, okay, this thing is a real problem and we need to do something about it. So either way, it's just really helpful to get that thing out of your face. Also really important to remind yourself that not everything is urgent, and we'll talk more about this in a minute. But it's a really good reminder that just because somebody says something is urgent for them doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be urgent for you. Now, when it comes to prioritizing your tasks, we always want to start with the time sensitive things. So if someone is waiting on you, if there is a deadline, et cetera, something that needs to happen first, that needs to happen first. Anything that may have been put off or delayed from the day before, rolling it over. We want to focus on that piece. We also want to avoid saving our biggest thing for the end of the day. When you run out of energy, you have to push it to tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Berlin, I'm laughing. I see your comment. We're in PR, not ER. It's very true. It's very true. We're not saving lives. If you are a doctor, then I could understand having your phone in front of you, but chances are we are not. So if you find yourself that you keep pushing these bigger tasks, these big projects to the end of the day, and you're like, I will work on this later, I'll work on this later, and you keep pushing it, and days go by, and weeks go by, and months go by, and you still haven't done the thing, chances are this project is too big to complete in one day. And so you're trying to schedule too much that's tangibly possible. So I call this basically microtasking. So let's use an example of build website. Let's say you have that project on your list. There is so much more that goes into a build website project, right? We're talking photos, copy, building the outline, like so many things. You want to break all of that down. We want to break that down into the different sections, the different pages, all the pieces that need to happen there to make it more bite-sized. So I call this microtasking, where you're breaking down those little pieces. And then when you have, let's say, 20 minutes today or an hour today, you have now the time and the space to look at that list and go, okay, what can I get done in this amount of time? And before you know it, you've actually accomplished the bigger thing, and you've chipped away at all of the smaller pieces to help get you there. And finally, the talk on prioritizing. Final piece, remember to actually mark out time on your calendar to complete projects. So this kind of ties into also understanding what days of the week you schedule calls and meetings with people. If you're scheduling calls every single day, chances are you're not giving yourself the time or the space to be able to get into that flow state where you need just that white space on your calendar, and you don't have to worry about, okay, I got to stop at a certain time. Allowing yourself to get lost in what you're working on is really, really amazing. So if you look at your calendar and you see on Friday that you have 3 hours open, chances are Friday will come and go and you will find a way to fill that time. Versus if you actually put it on the calendar for that time that you're going to work on that website project that we talked about, you're giving yourself that 3 block and you're going to go through all those subtasks and you're going to check some of those things off. You'll hold yourself accountable to complete it and get closer to reaching that bigger goal of like actually completing the whole project. So my recommendation is always, again, going back to that, what are you prepping and planning for yourself that day? How many things are you giving yourself? And really being realistic about what days you actually have the time and the space to do the things that you need to do. Okay, continuing the conversation about prioritizing the tasks, getting distracted, all of that fun stuff. Responding to every single message as it comes into your inbox is completely sucking your productivity. And I know that email management is a huge source of overwhelm for a lot of business owners. And here are a few great tips to help ease the overwhelm and make things feel a little bit more manageable. So number one, do not use your inbox as a to-do list. This puts us in this mental ping pong of constantly trying to remember and ping between places. I talked earlier just a little bit about using ClickUp or Asana or Notion. You go in there, you look at that tool, you see what you have to do that day, then you open up your inbox and you're like, oh yeah, don't forget, I got to do that. And when you get a message that doesn't quite need your attention, you mark it unread and you're going to come back to it later. And it just starts to get very messy very quickly. Cool fun fact too, if you use ClickUp, you can actually use a Gmail app that will automatically send things to your ClickUp to-do list from Gmail, which is really cool, as like a little quick automation. So it's always something that you can do. And again, I mentioned earlier, there are great project management platforms out there, Asana, Notion, Monday. The whole point is to take the time to put everything where it actually belongs so that when you can address it when you need to and not have to jump back into your inbox with a ton of unread messages of stuff that you're just waiting on. Number two, make sure to keep your email tab closed. We talked about this earlier, and I want to reiterate how important it is to not check your messages frequently. And I know this can be so hard too when you're waiting on something important, or maybe it's a slower season and you don't feel like you have really a lot going on, but it's actually really detrimental to constantly be ping-ponging back and forth. It puts you in this reactionary state of waiting for things to come, and it doesn't allow you to actually work at that creative higher level we've been talking about, because you're always taking breaks and you're always pulling your focus and attention. I actually, not to brag, but I took my work email off my phone 2 years ago, and this has been so helpful. It is crazy how quickly I was able to take away that impulse to check my phone and my work email after I would send something while I was grocery shopping. Like, if I'm out of the office, I am out of the office. And that separation has been wonderful, which leads us to our next talking point: boundaries. The best way to hold yourself accountable with inbox management is to set boundaries for yourself and also for others. Choose how often you will check your messages. I recommend only a few times a day, and then communicate that with others. Create an email signature that lists your office hours, so it's very apparent when you send somebody a message letting them know, hey, if I'm responding to this on Thursday and my office hours are Monday through Thursday, if you write me back on Friday, I'm not going to get to it till Monday. And that's okay. Going back to Berlin's point earlier, we're in PR, not ER. It's okay. It can wait. You can turn on your email autoresponder that lets people know when they can reach you, when they can expect a response back. If you communicate from the start and set that expectation when someone can hear from you, that way someone never has to wonder, did they get that? Should I email them again? Should I email somebody else if they're reaching out to you and inquiring about reaching out to you? I have a free template for this that I can also share at the end for you as well, just setting up some inbox boundaries for yourself. Final piece that I want to talk about with your inbox is, if it feels overwhelming to dive in there and get back to stuff, make it fun. Create an environment that makes it fun to check your messages. Light a candle, put on your favorite music, make your delicious beverage, make it bite-sized. It doesn't have to be that you literally inbox zero or you don't check everything. Maybe start with just like a 30-minute timer and make it a bi-weekly activity and see how fast can I get through getting back to all of these things. Again, going back to whatever works for you, finding that flow. It's also totally okay in what we do as most of us virtual business owners working with people all over, responding to things during your set time. I've seen this with a few people where they will have something in their emails, in their signature, that says something like, my office hours might be different than yours and don't feel the need to respond outside of your office hours. And I love that permission that people are giving. I'm basically saying that, like, just because you see this doesn't mean that it needs a response. And I really love that. Okay. So I mentioned a couple templates. One is the email template that I suggested, if you want to check that out. I also have a free ClickUp template if you want to download that, if you're interested in ClickUp and getting started on there. That is a free goodie for you as well. So you can go to heyrachel.com/resources and check those out. I'll drop the link here for you. And if you want more hands-on support, or if you would like to chat more about your business behind the scenes, your operations, your processes, whatever is keeping you up at night, I would love to hear from you. Even if you are watching this replay, know my door is always open. We can totally schedule a chat. I'm going to go ahead and drop my link in the chat. Ooh, in theory, I'm going to drop my link in the chat and share it with you. It's coming, I promise.
I was gonna say, if it's on your website and you want us to drop it in for you, we could do that too.
I'm trying to find my schedule link. Okay, here we go. I didn't realize that you can't, like, when you're in the presenter mode in Canva, you can't just copy the notes. So here we go. Here is my personal schedule link. If any of you would like to schedule a chat to talk more about your stuff behind the scenes, I am happy to. Also, make sure we're connected on Instagram if we're not already. Let's stay connected. Send me a message. Absolutely love to chat with you. And we did it. And I'm done. That's all I have to say.
That was really great. Thank you. Lots of good tips. It's something that's really hard to navigate. Like, as you start freelancing or just in general as a freelancer, or even just like working in an office and like dealing with a bunch of people and other people's schedules. So those are all really great tips. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone have any questions? Also, I want to like hold space. If anyone has any questions that I can answer, anything that we talked about, anything that we didn't talk about that's like just more system and automation nerdy that you would like to chat about, that is also an option.
I'm curious why ClickUp? Because I did Trello for forever and now
Mhm.
I feel like I've outgrown it, but Notion's too hard, but I don't love Monday and I'm lost.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So for me, the biggest thing when it comes to finding the tool that works for you, honestly, it's a gut check. Like
Okay.
watching some videos or getting a free account, whatever that looks like for you, and saying, do I like how this looks? Do I understand the hierarchy? Does this make sense to my brain? Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't like Notion. I find the sandboxness of opening up a blank page and going, great, create what you need. That is too much. I don't want to spend 7 hours creating my
Totally.
planner in Notion. But that works for some people. And I love that. That's amazing because they need that. They need that
Right.
space to be able to do that, right? I love ClickUp because, yeah, Amanda, we're talking like to-do list basically. I love ClickUp because it's sandboxy in that you can have list views and the board views, like how you have in Trello with the Kanban
Yeah.
views. You can have Gantt views. There's like a lot you can do there, but you can also have tables that mimic spreadsheets, and you can have docs in there. And I have all of my chats in there with clients and my team, so I don't even use Slack because it's all in ClickUp. And you can do screen recording, so I don't even have Loom anymore. So it's like all of these things that ClickUp has started to add that make it really native. That, by the way, don't jump in there trying to use all the things, right?
Sure.
But I like knowing that you can get started with it as a tool and it can really grow with you as you're continuing to grow too.
Okay. I love it. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, beautiful.
Good one. Kate asks that she likes using a task management system, but it feels like another thing to manage. Any tips? Which I feel you. I love ClickUp, but I feel like I barely scratch the surface because it's like a whole another thing.
Yeah, which it is. I mean, it totally is. It can definitely feel like it. I find also too that like if it doesn't feel like your ClickUp is set up in the most efficient way, that can also feel like it's really hard to manage because you're logging in there and you're like, where do I go to find the thing that I need? And you're clicking around to too many places. And so my advice there is one, I mean, if you have the space, the capacity to be able to work with somebody, hello, I'd be more than happy to chat about like actually setting it up for you in a way that'll work. But I also think that it's really important to understand, again, how your brain works and how you've organized things. If you are wanting to find something and you're having to click into 4 different places to be able to get there and you still can't find it, something tells me that it's just not organized in the best way. So it might be taking a step back and saying, like, okay, I need a personal section and a work section and I need a list in each. And that's it. And we're going to take a step back and we're going to strip it back and make it really simple for ourselves so we can log in and see what we need to do. Also, making sure that you're assigning everything to yourself or to if you have an assistant or team members, having due dates is really helpful too, because then you're not actually just having to guess what needs to happen. You actually have dates for everything. So there's a lot of extra pieces there for sure to really help it feel like it's a lot easier to manage. I hope that was helpful. Oh, Arissa had a question. Do you have any tips on your team or boss to type to check? Did you see that message? Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. I had to have a chat with my dad about this years ago about boundaries because he would send me a text and then 5 minutes later, hello? It's like, dude, I wasn't on my phone. Yeah, that's really tricky. Definitely, obviously, it depends on the person. It depends on your relationship. It depends on your communication style. But you can always try and have a conversation with them around saying that, like, you know, I can't be in my inbox while also trying to get stuff done. I'm not the most eloquent person on this. So I know there are definitely books and resources on boundaries around that and being able to have those tougher conversations. My husband's office, actually, they had a whole like leadership meeting about this, and they've implemented something where that if you are wearing, everyone in the office got headphones. And if you're wearing your headphones, you're to be not disturbed because someone knows that you're focused. So it's like little things like that that maybe depending on your business, depending on your boss, that kind of thing, there might be ways that you can have those conversations to help them understand that You gotta get stuff done.
What other, so you mentioned Google and the Gmail Chrome extension, which I didn't even know about. Like, what other fun ClickUp things are there that are useful?
Oh man,
Big
do we have
question.
another hour to chat about it? I would say when it comes to ClickUp, there's a couple of things that are pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, the Gmail add-on is really nice. Being able to just send stuff to a task is really cool. You can also email yourself stuff, which is kind of cool. So ClickUp has the option in any of their lists. You can get a link, and you can use that as like a direct email link. So if you send an email to whatever that list's link is at clickup.com, it will automatically add a task to your list, which is cool. So if like you're out and about and you're like, you think of something, you can like have that saved in your phone as like ClickUp to-do list, contact, and you can email yourself something, which is kind of cool. There's also just an widget, an app on, I know for sure iPhone as well, where you can have a shortcut on your desktop or in your home screen where you can add stuff to lists, which is cool too. So that's really nice. And then outside of that, I would say it's kind of like bespoke and custom for like the things that you're doing and how you're using them. ClickUp has so many really amazing features. I don't know, maybe Berlin, Julia, we need to have another conversation about doing like a part two that's like a ClickUp workshop or something.
Totally. Because I have so many questions already, and I'm always like, because I like to experiment with these programs, but like you said, like I get totally overwhelmed. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, do you watch YouTube videos? Are you just playing around with it? Like, how do you get to the point where you're like, okay, I've mastered this?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like as far as like mastered it, there never is a mastered feeling, right? I
Fair.
would think it's more so about like finding the rhythm that works for you. And it's all about, I think, your style and your what's the word that I'm looking for? Your resources. Like, do you want to be the
Sure.
kind of person that like really figures it out and DIYs it? There are so many great YouTube resources and videos out there that can show you how to do very specific things.
Mhm.
Versus if you just want to have someone set it up for you in your agency, that's also an option, right? So it kind of just depends
Totally.
on where you're at.
Okay.
Oh yeah, someone asked about how much ClickUp is, and Berlin is right. You can get started for free. You don't need to pay anything up front. It's when you start to get into more of like the custom setup and creating specific fields for your business and that kind of thing where you would want to upgrade. Same with like if you start adding in more automations, all of those pieces, that's when you are going to want to start to pay for it. But you can totally start using it for free. In fact, I'm pretty sure Notion, Asana, I don't know about Monday, Trello, ClickUp, you can start all of them for free. So you don't actually need to pay anything.
I have a free Monday and it's pretty good, but every now
Okay.
and then there's like that annoying thing,
Yeah.
you can't do this, which drives me crazy, but it's pretty good for the free version.
Yeah, for sure. Someone asked about Asana and if it's the same, sort of. So I find that Asana, there's a lot that you can do there. Again, I think it goes back to, I think Julie, it may have been you who had asked, like, how do you decide? Gut check as far as like what's the right program for you. I know people that have jumped into Asana and they love it, and then they've tried looking at ClickUp or they've been in like a client's ClickUp and they literally hate it. Like they don't understand how to find anything, they don't know how it works, like that kind of thing. So I think a lot of it can be also down to just like what's the right platform literally for you and your brain and how you work. Asana does have some of similar things to ClickUp for sure, as far as like the views and what you can do and automations and all of that good stuff. But I would say in my experience that ClickUp is just like a little bit more robust as far as like all the customizations that you can do and all of that good stuff.
I can't go a whole hour without or talking about systems without mentioning Airtable. Also, just want to throw another name in the hat. I use both of them together and I love Airtable so much. It's also free to get started.
That's
Yeah.
actually how we manage this group is Airtable. It's how we keep track of all of our events and that sort of thing. So it's been really helpful.
Airtable is a really cool tool. I used to use that and Trello, and then when I started using ClickUp, I was able to get rid of both of those, and now I only use ClickUp. So that's
I'm
that's again
excited.
why I'm Team ClickUp. But
Yeah.
Airtable is a really cool tool. For anyone that doesn't know, Airtable is basically like, gosh, how would you describe it, Berlin? Like spreadsheets on steroids. Like there's
Yeah.
just so much customization that you can do in there.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard of it in that exact way, like a Google Sheets on steroids. Yeah. But easier also. Like
Hmm.
everything's already kind of done for you, so you're not like doing all of the technical parts, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, while we're on the convo, unless anybody has any other questions, um, what kind of are people struggling with specific things in their workflow or kind of like stuck in a system or stuck kind of like creating something? Like, is anybody struggling with that? We can share tips on that.
And I will also say too, I know today was like we focused more on like the higher level kind of conversation and like taking care of yourself and the foundation. But like if you have any specific questions about like your client experience or managing your leads or your funnel or anything like that, we can totally talk about those pieces too. Annie said bookkeeping. Ooh, that's a fun one. Annie, do you want to pop off your mic and talk about what you're actually struggling with? Because that's a big conversation, just bookkeeping in general.
So this is kind of like with both of the things I do. So I work in one side, I work in promotional products and awards. And my other one's I have a tutoring business because I'm a former teacher. So both of those, I need a better bookkeeping system. And working with my families, they have like a desktop version of QuickBooks, which is makes me want to puke because my mom's 72 and that's what she's had forever.
Yeah.
And like either, figuring that part out. And then because I actually want to make my tutoring business an actual business instead of like a once in a while under the table kind of thing, I'm ready for that to be like an actual business, like figuring out what bookkeeping system that people recommend that they love that is also can do purchase orders and invoices and everything and not be like $1,000 a year like QuickBooks.
Yeah, for sure. So I hate QuickBooks. I used it in my first business for years, and I was so excited when that day that I was finally able to cancel it. It was the greatest feeling in the world because they just charge. Yeah, they just charge so much for what you can now do on so many other platforms. So I personally use Wave, and then I've worked with a handful of bookkeeping clients that really like Xero with an X, Xero. And both of those are virtual as well. So you can take them everywhere. They can do invoicing. You can connect your banking to them. So you're able to, as long as for your business, you have separate bank accounts, checking accounts, you can connect those when your payments drop in and deposit from other places. They can automatically get added there. So it just makes it very easy to reconcile everything that way.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll look into those.
What's the difference then? Like I use QuickBooks Online and it's not super expensive. Like it's through my accountant and I don't really know. I think it's like $30 or something a month. So like why should I migrate?
I mean, I'm not an accountant, so I don't have like very strong opinions here necessarily. It's more so from just like a personal perspective, but QuickBooks, in my experience, is always the most expensive for offering things that a lot of other now newer tools like Xero, like Wave can offer for less. For a while, like when I first got started with this business and I signed up for Wave in 2019, it was free at the time. So like I didn't even have to pay for anything. And I think now they charge a little bit per month. But I mean, it's just an easy tool. I find it also very intuitive to use, which I think that was the biggest thing for me with QuickBooks is like they were always updating it and changing stuff. And like I would go in to do my monthly bookkeeping and I couldn't remember how to find just where my transactions were to be able to reconcile everything every month. And that was frustrating too. Interesting, Kate. Yeah, there you go. Cool. Anyone have any other questions? Any topics? No? Great, beautiful. Okay, cool. I hope today was helpful.
It was super helpful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rachel. And yeah, it would be really fun to do like a part 2 or like a ClickUp session or something.
Yeah.
But cool. So I dropped in the chat some links. So if you didn't sign in yet, grab that link and sign in. We won't share email addresses with you all. We'll just share contact information and we'll send out the replay. Our next event is on the 18th. It's our feedback round, which is super fun. You can come in and share any thing that you're working on or want feedback on or need help with, and we all just brainstorm together, and it's really fun because we all have different experiences and backgrounds, so there's lots of good brain power. I dropped in our Instagram link. If you're not connected, we share fun events there and we do occasional members only events. So you'll get the info in there and in our LinkedIn group, which I also shared the link for. That's also a great place to come in and get more questions or help or just chat. So that's a members only group as well. So just people that have been to at least one event. And I also shared Rachel's Instagram if you didn't grab that earlier. And that's it for me. Ada has a question, and then Julia, I'll pass it to you if there's anything else too.
Perfect.
Oh, hi. Sorry. I came a little bit later, so apologize. I missed some of the lecture, so I may not have a question for that. But Beryl, this is my first time attending, but so much great information. Is it possible you or someone can send me the chat if I drop my email because I'm not able to save the chat with my device, and it's so much great information in it.
Yes. Yeah, I saved, and I'll put that in the email too.
Okay. I'm gonna drop my email because I don't. How would you have my email?
Yeah, so grab the sign-in sheet link. It's a Google Forms, and you'll put in your information in there, and then we'll email you by tomorrow.
Okay, and I'll just put my email in the chat for now, if cause just for timeliness. Okay, thank you.
Cool, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Julia, anything else?
I think that's everything. When we send the email, I guess the only other thing we do have a form. So if you have any questions, suggestions, if you want to be a presenter like Rachel was, or if you know someone you think would be great, we always want to hear from you. So you can email us back at the email or reach out to us on LinkedIn, Instagram, wherever, but we're super open to feedback and want this to be collaborative. So let us know if there's anything you want to see. Right. And I think, yeah, you're welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that people found this helpful. So, Rachel, we will definitely have to have you back.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to respond to Tamara's message, but Tamara, we didn't hear you, so you're all good. But I hope you're feeling better, and thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.